So MCO Technologies, we're an Irish-based company, HQ in Ireland, but we have offices all across the UK, America, so we sell all around the world with a dealer network. So effectively, we're like any of the other 3D printers that are out there in the industry, in that we take a digital file and we print that out into the physical world. But how we differentiate ourselves from everybody else is that we use paper. We use basic paper that you have in a regular printer or photocopier, and we use an ink. So we have very, very high color capability. We have a very, very low cost 3D printed object and a very sustainable green solution. So for example, you can take an object like this, very high color quality, take it from a scan, and because we use paper and ink, we get very high color resolution. Because it is paper and ink, it's a very low cost material, so maybe that could be 10 times cheaper than the next color object that you want to print out. And finally, because it is paper and a water-based adhesive, you can throw the whole thing into your paper recycle bin and get it completely recycled at the end. We came up with this idea almost 12 years ago, believe it or not, to build a 3D printer that had a zero running cost. So we wanted to build a printer that people would hit print and not have to worry about what it costs anymore to print that object out. So the only material we could think of that people could do that was by using paper. It's a very accessible material, it's a very durable material. Everybody can grab their hands on a couple of reams of paper and feed it into the printer. So this machine, the MCO Iris, named after the Greek god of the rainbow, this prints in full bitmap color. So it's a very, very big deal for the industry. About 70%, maybe 80% of what 3D printing is used for is prototyping. So it's early stages of the design review, it's product designers, architects, medical dental applications, planning surgery, it's all those things are prototyping. So for that application, you want something that's really, really low cost, dimensionally accurate, and if you can get full color in there, that's a real added bonus. So our machine fills all those criteria, ticks all those boxes. But in saying that, that 20 to 30% of functionality is doing us a bit of a disservice, because people are using our parts for vacuum forming, investment casting, sand casting, because you can actually use it as tooling, because the paper itself has a really strong properties, and people are usually thinking that paper is going to be like some sort of an origami structure or some sort of a paper mache. But this here, for example, is a bottle opener that we printed out in paper, and that'll actually open up a bottle of beer. You don't need to post-treat them. The parts are strong enough just straight out of the machine. But if you want to make it more durable, if you want to make it water resistant, you can post-treat the parts afterwards. And paper is 70% porous. So you can imagine this paper is more like a scaffold filled with 70% air voids. So if you dip that into a resin or you spray a liquid onto that, it actually will absorb that material. And when that resin cures, it takes on the properties of that resin. So if you do with a material like this, it gets really hard and waterproof. You can put that into water and leave it there all the time. You can dip it into another material that makes it really, really flexible, like a rubber material. So you can have the whole range from really hard to really flexible. You know, it's very important for us to have collaborations and to work with other big firms. So, for example, with Staples in Europe. So Staples are using our technology exclusively. So people can upload their content to a Staples website called MyEasy3D, and they'll upload the designs and they'll get them printed out on an MCO Iris in full color and low cost print. So that's one of the big things we're doing, and we're constantly looking at new ways to get our technology out there. And I believe that people are going to get access to 3D printed content at the consumer level using retail. It's very similar to what happened in the 2D printing industry, where years ago, 20 years ago, when you had film from your camera, you didn't try and print it out at home. Some did, but very few did. And your first digital prints were never printed at home, they were always printed at a local store, at your local chemist or Boots or CVS in the US. I think the same thing is going to happen in the consumer level, where people on the street, not necessarily the makers who are very much into building the machines, but people on the street are going to want to upload their content and get that printed and not worry about how the parts are actually made. And that's why we were trying to align ourselves with the likes of Staples and other very big brands that have access to the consumer level. And I think that's going to be the next step for the consumer growth, is through that channel.